Joining us now, National Campaign Manager for the Donald Trump for President campaign, Corey Lewandowski. Hey, Corey, how are you?
Good morning. It's great to be with you today.
Okay, now, before we get into some of these issues, you just got back from a major rally last night, as I understand it, in Columbus, Ohio, where you had just under 15,000 people show up on a Monday night. What is going on?
You know, I'd love to say, John, that this is an anomaly, but it's not. It now has become standard fare that Mr. Trump comes to a city and people pour in these massive crowds to hear him speak. I've never seen anything like it in my 20 years of doing politics. Last night, Columbus, Ohio, over 14,000 people went through the magnetometer, so that's the official count from the Secret Service. We were in Alabama over the weekend. We had 11,000 people there. We were in Knoxville, Tennessee last Monday night with 16,000 people there. I mean, this is a Monday night at 7 o'clock. People have jobs. They stand in line for hours. Worcester, Massachusetts on Wednesday, not particularly the most conservative city or state in the country. 11,000 people fill the hockey arena to come hear him. So this is happening everywhere. We'll be in South Carolina tonight in Myrtle Beach, where we expect more than 10,000 people to come. And what we see is, number one, we're almost a year out from the election still. But number two, these crowds are so energized. They're so passionate. They're so excited. They want to see America become great again. And they know that the only person who can do that is Donald Trump. And I'll tell you, I've never seen anything like it in my 20 years of doing politics. It's truly amazing.
You know, I haven't either, and I've been saying that all the time. I've been to 3 of these, and I tell people you have to go to figure it out. And a lot of people say, there's a lot of people that just, they know him from the TV show, so it's kind of that thing going on. I've talked to so many people at these rallies that we've never seen before who basically have told us that they have been checked out of the system, and Donald Trump has inspired them to get back in and register and get involved. And I think, a lot of people saying that your polling numbers are overstated. I think they're understated. What say you?
Well, here's what I think. We've seen a number of polls come out this week. So Fox National had a poll out that shows Mr. Trump as the clear and definitive frontrunner by 10 points nationwide. CBS did 3 polls this week in the 3 early states of Iowa, New Hampshire, and South Carolina. In New Hampshire, Mr. Trump is up 19 points in that poll. In Iowa, he's up 9 points. In South Carolina, he's up 16 points. In Nevada, he's up 20 points, 38-18. You start looking around in Oklahoma, where a poll came out this week, he's up 14 points. Look, everybody can't be wrong. I think what you see is that the American people want a strong leader, someone who will stand up and fight for them. Now, there's a new Quinnipiac poll out today in Iowa. Donald Trump, again, is the front runner. He's up 5 points from the last time they polled. That tells us that his message is resonating. The converse of that is Dr. Carson's polls have dropped 10 points in that same time frame. Trump up 5, Carson down 10. The American people are very smart. They're intuitive. They know when time is tough and there's a crisis, they want a strong leader, and they continuously point to Donald Trump, not just in the early states, but in all these states, in all the national polls. And I can tell you, Donald Trump is going to be in this race to the very end because he's going to be the nominee.
Well, I predicted that in May, and I'm sticking with it. I'm going to be absolutely on target on that. I don't see who's going to knock him off. Now, I want to get to these political action committees that are popping up now. The globalist getting very upset, if you will, the establishment about the prospect of Mr. Trump being the nominee. Look, I said in my column yesterday, I don't think these are going to have the type of impact that other people are thinking they will, because I think the Trump backers are very intelligent. They're going to see this for what it is. What is your strategy with this?
I think you're right, John, and you have been an early supporter of Mr. Trump, and you've been right on the money. What we know is that there are hundreds of millions of dollars out there that these super PACs, that lobbyists and special interests have put money into to try and take Donald Trump down. He's funding his own campaign, but here's the difference. People already know everything that they're going to say in these super PAC ads, these false and misleading ads. They're going to say Donald Trump this, Donald Trump that. People know it, and you know what? I don't think they care. They know that they have, with Donald Trump, they have a strong leader, the person who is best to lead on the economy. The latest poll today says 44-9. The person best to eradicate ISIS, Donald Trump. The person best to keep our homeland safe, Donald Trump. The person best to solve the illegal immigration problem and build a wall. Donald Trump, the person best to fix Washington, D.C., Donald Trump. The polls are consistent on this. So these super PAC ads are going to come out and say things. And look, most of these ads are going to be run by guys who are at 2 and 3% that are just trying to hang on. And if you look at the people in this race who started in the race, they've already gotten out. They've been the nastiest to Mr. Trump, whether it's Rick Perry or Bobby Jindal or Scott Walker or, these candidates who have been so nasty and mean. And look, Governor Kasich just now is now running a super PAC ad. And you know what? He's at 2% in the latest poll. So every time these guys go and attack Donald Trump, they go down in the polls because the people don't want that. What they want is a leader. They're dying for leadership in this country, someone who's strong and articulate and knows what it takes to get something done. And that's what the people have in Donald Trump, and that's why he continues to go up in the polls while those other candidates who want to spend this money and make these ads go down.
Well, we predicted after your response and Mr. Trump's response to the Parisian attacks that he would go up very quickly because I think he's saying what a lot of people think. Now, I want to get to your Syrian refugee strategy. As I understand it, don't let anyone in right now because we can't vet these people, and those that have come in should be registered and taken out. Is that a fair interpretation?
Very simple. You're exactly right. Here's the problem we have. Number one, you have Syrian refugees, many of which are military-age males who we have no information on because of the region that they come from Syria. We have no documentation about these people. We don't know if they're good people, bad people. And our premise is, well, if we can't find anything bad, we get to let them in. That's a problem, number one. Number two, the administration is saying 10,000 people to start. It's going to end up and grow very quickly to 50,000, 200,000, 250,000. Here's the thing. They think that they're going to be able to track these people when they come into our country. I will ask a basic question. How many illegal immigrants are in our country today? Illegal. The federal government says 11.5 million. I've heard numbers as high as 30 million. We don't even know within the number of millions how many illegals are in the country, let alone us bringing in Syrian refugees who we know nothing about, who are going to come into our country, assimilate into our culture, presumably, or become what could be the greatest Trojan horse of all time,
right,
come into our country and attack us from within by us inviting them inside. So Mr. Trump's premise is very simple. No Syrian refugees. We would build a safe zone in Syria. We would keep them there if that's what they needed to do. We don't need more refugees. We don't need refugees here, particularly men of military age who should be fighting for their own country that we know nothing about. And if we think the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency of the U.S. is going to be able to track those people when they get here, we're only kidding ourselves.
Well, absolutely. And look, the bottom line of this thing is there has been the biggest percentage increase in illegals coming over the southern border of the United States in October and the first 2 weeks in November than we've ever had. So obviously the message that President Obama is sending out is, hey, come on in, and everything is going to be fine. We don't know who these people are as it stands without inviting others in. Coupled with the fact, two other things I want to say. Every Syrian refugee that we bring in costs the taxpayer $65,000. We have veterans that can't get simple care that are living on the street. We have 26,000 homeless right now in the city of Los Angeles. And we're going to spend $65,000 each on someone overseas when they're in walking distance to the Saudis, Kuwait, Qatar, the Arab Emirates, which aren't taking any of them in. How does that make any sense?
Well, it makes no sense. And, we don't always have to be the entity in the world that's decided we're going to try and fix everything. Some of those Gulf states over there, they need, if they think it's important, to take care of those people over there. Why should we be bringing them to the United States? I'll tell you, it is time to put America first. I know that sounds, crass sometimes to people. They say, geez, people need help. Absolutely. But our people need help. Our veterans need help. Our people who don't have jobs need help. We know the real unemployment rate in this country is probably somewhere around 20%. And what we know is that illegal aliens are coming over and taking jobs away from that lowest socioeconomic level, that those people should have those jobs. We know that those illegal aliens are coming across our killing American citizens. We need to stop all this. It's time to put America first for a change.
We're with Donald Trump for President National Campaign Manager, Corey Lewandowski. I want to get, Corey, to some of the statements that your candidate has made over the past week that have gotten some play. One is that he said that he saw thousands of Arabs, Muslims, if you will, cheering the World Trade Center going down. That story, I think you linked back to the Washington Post, if memory serves me correct, in 2001. But other people have said that just isn't true. How do you respond to that?
Well, so look, we know it's true, and let me just give you some context here. You know, I grew up in just north of the city of Boston, where two of those planes that crashed into the World Trade Center came out of Boston Logan Airport. And I had a lot of friends on those planes, guys I grew up with in college and family friends, and it was a devastating time. And there were unequivocally people, not just in the Boston area, but around the country, who were happy, if you can believe this, with the devastation that was caused on 9/11. Radical Islamic terrorists who were happy. People who were absolutely and unequivocally proud of the fact that a major terrorist attack was perpetrated on U.S. soil. And that's devastating. The Washington Post reported this. They said they saw tailgate-style parties taking place in Jersey City. This is the Washington Post. This is the mainstream media. And now, 15 years later, after these terrible attacks, when you call out the Washington Post about it, they say, well, maybe that story wasn't accurate. They've had 15 years to recant the story. The fact that Mr. Trump has brought this back up and said there is no question that there are people in the U.S. who are celebrating the fact that a major terrorist attack was perpetrated on our soil, and we're happy about it. Now the mainstream media is taking a step back and saying, well, no, we've never said that, but the Washington Post's own story is saying that, and as opposed to writing a formal retraction, they're saying, well, that was in the story further down. This is written by, this story it took into account police officers from Jersey City who saw these taking place. And when we say tailgate-sized parties, you know what a tailgate is. Go to a college football game. This
Right.
isn't one or two people standing there. These are hundreds or thousands of people cheering and being proud about what took place. And that's what Mr. Trump wants to say. And that's what he did say, is that he saw this, the news coverage covered it, and now the mainstream media is trying to take a step backwards and say, well, we didn't really report it that way, when the fact is they did.
Okay, let's get to Mr. Trump's statement on surveilling mosques. Can you clarify that for us?
Very simply. Again, as I said just a few minutes ago, I grew up in the city of Boston. And the Boston bombers, those two brothers, were part of an organization in Boston that was well known to have potential terrorist ties. And the city chose not to be surveilling these people. And look, after 9/11, our country went out and surveilled a series of mosques. And we know that took place to make sure that there was no terrorist activity taking place. We were in a heightened sense of alert. I don't think there's anything wrong if we think that there are people on a terrorist watch list that are taking part in activities that we as a country aren't following them, because our job, our obligation, our responsibility to the American public is to keep them safe. First and foremost, everything else, in my opinion, is secondary. Good roads, good schools, good bridges, all those things are secondary to keeping our homeland safe. And if that means we have every tool available to us to make sure that we never, ever have another 9/11 or never have another Boston bomber or, God forbid, ever have something like what just took place in Paris, that's the responsibility of the federal government. If that means we have to surveil people who are in places where we think they're on the terrorist watch list or are potentially plotting a terrorist attack against the United States, then we need to use every resource possible to do that.
So what about the potential registering of Muslims? I didn't interpret that as to be what Mr. Trump meant. Can you explain that?
Yeah, sure. And what he said was, look, we're not going to register Muslims. What we're going to do is we're going to register those people, those Syrian refugees. If they come in, we're going to register them, and we're going to follow them, we're going to track them. And that's a very reasonable thing to do. If we're going to bring Syrian refugees in, then we should know where these people are. This isn't related to the Muslims who are living here in our country legally. What we want to do is make sure that we're taking every precaution possible to make sure that we are not going to have another terrorist attack or a terrorist attack on our soil. And so those Syrian refugees who are coming in under asylum status, we should be registering those people. We should absolutely unequivocally at all times know where they are to make sure that we don't have any problems here in our country. And look, that is the privilege of coming to our country under refugee status. It's a privilege to be here. That's the difference.
Now, in the Fox debate a couple of weeks ago, one of the statements that Mr. Trump made at the end of one of the questions, he said, the problems with us competing globally is that wages were too high. Now, I know for a fact that Trump has been fighting for wages for the U.S. worker since I was able to meet him back in the 80s, all right? So he's been fighting for this. So that's another statement that I just want to clarify how he actually meant with that.
Yeah, I think what he's saying is, look, we need to have great wages in our country. That's what we need, right? Our wages as it relates to some other countries, it's very difficult to compete in the global marketplace. But that said, we need to bring our manufacturing back here. We need to bring our jobs back here. We need to increase our wages so that people can make more money, so they can get out of poverty. That's what we're talking about here. And it's really important to remember our trade deficits with China and Mexico and all these other countries are what are actually losing our jobs here in the United States. It's time to negotiate better trade deals, bring our jobs back, and let the American people make a good, solid living wage. Let's take people, and look, his tax plan's been very clear. If you're a family married with 2 children and you make $50,000 a year or less, you're not paying any taxes. Mm-hmm. Let's take those people and bring them over the $50,000 level. Let's get it to $75,000, $85,000, now you have $100,000.
Right.
This is the greatest country in the world. Let's get as many people in our country as possible, the highest wages possible, but we also have to bring back manufacturing jobs, and we have to bring back opportunities for our people here in this country to make higher wages.
All right, I've got 2 minutes. What is your Super Tuesday strategy, Corey?
Well, first, you've got to get through the first 4 primary states of Iowa, Nevada, South Carolina, and New Hampshire. And then once you go through there, you've got a series, you've got 11 states, what is dubbed the SEC primary or Super Tuesday primary. But what you have there is you've got a really strong southern strategy, but you've also got other states involved. You've got Massachusetts, you've got Vermont in that area where, maybe some of the campaigns won't compete as much. Our strategy is very clear. We're going to compete everywhere. We're going to be everywhere. We were in Alabama this weekend. We were in Texas last weekend. We're in South Carolina. We have been to Oklahoma. We have been, you name it, we have been there. We've been to Florida, which is not part of that, but is further on. Our strategy is clear. Bring our message of Make America Great Again to the people. Let them understand what Mr. Trump's vision is to make our country great. Let's go back and fix our country. Let's create jobs. Let's keep people safe. Let's make sure they have what they need. Let's rebuild our infrastructure. But first and foremost, let's put America first. It's a very simple message. Put America first. Stop being second fiddle as a country to everybody else. Stop giving everybody else everything when we get nothing. Stop making terrible trade deals. Let's get our hostages out of these prisons overseas. Let's stop doing a $150 billion deal with Iran. That's a terrible deal in the first place. It's time to put America first. And when I go to these massive rallies with Mr. Trump, and I see it firsthand, let's build a wall. Let's stop illegal immigration. Let's protect our southern border. Let's take care of our people first. When he says lines like that, let's make America win again. Let's be a winner. That is what people want. They want to be a winner. They want a strong leader. And I think that you will find once you make it through those first 4 states, and even in those states, I think our country wants to be a winner again. I think they want to be the best in the world again. I think they want to have the opportunity to be proud to be Americans, which is sad that some people can't be because this administration has made it so disappointing sometimes to be an American that they don't take the privilege that we have here and extend that to the rest of the world. So I think that's what the people want in this country, and I think that's why they're supporting Donald Trump in overwhelming margins.
All right. Well, I think you are on target with that. Corey Lewandowski, National Campaign Manager for Donald Trump. More information, go to donaldjtrump.com. And